I think, Alex, Google is a good place to start, but I understand why you're saying outside of Google. But there is so much information available now that you can find out anything. So there is an onus on the new startup to actually do some research before they start to look. And I think the areas where it's useful to do the research is what type of funding are you likely to need. So if you are a startup, you're not going to go to a private equity company because that just isn't anything that they're going to be interested in. So you're going to look at seed funding, or you're going to look at angel investing, or you might look at crowdfunding. So I'd say get familiar, which you can do on your own by Googling around and looking at those vehicles, and try to pick a sweet spot where you think you're going to be. And that's really important. Talk to people who are in your network, and you might be very young, and the people in your network might be typically young also, but go beyond your own network into other people's network and just try to get some conversations with people who might have done that before. So there really is an opportunity, just get talking, basically. So as you're firming up your idea, you're looking at what sort of funding you might need. And there are advantages to all of the different ones. So, for example, crowdfunding would suit certain businesses that want to. There was a good example in fitness, which was One Rebel, and they did crowdfunding. And James Balfour is the founder of One Rebel, and he wrote quite an interesting piece a few years back that was saying that they did that because it really suited their brand. You know, it suited the fact that if you're somebody who's looking for something to invest in and you're a person in the crowd, you sort of want to own a cool boutique health club business in London, don't you? You sort of think that's quite a nice thing to do. So it really suited their business to go down the crowdfunding angle. And the advantages they got from crowdfunding, for example, were, probably they got more. They gave away less equity because it's a desirable thing to do and there's a crowd investing in it. So you can think about all these types of things. If you're going into seed investing, there are certain tax breaks that investors like EIS or SEIS, which give either 30% on the EIS or 50% tax relief on SEIS. That's massively important to investors. So look at if there are any attractive things that you can add to your pitch that make it interesting for an investor. But I'd say in summary, talk to people, get yourself prepared, understand where you're aiming, i.e. which sort of funding you're aiming at, and then just start speaking to people. There are people out there whose whole raison d'etre is to lend money. So arrange some meetings and crack on.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. I think, like things like that. I mean, I'm not personally starting a fitness business that needs investing, at least right now. But things like what you just said there, like understanding the tax breaks that could be available for not only, for the people who are helping you out, that's stuff that I think people don't even start to realize in these early stages. So I think that's really valuable.
So the where to find that out is the HMRC website, but something EIS or SEIS, you will read about on that website, on the HMRC website, and you will understand, or you'll be able to ask questions about in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
The difference to an investor investing in your business is that if they put £50,000 in real terms, they're only investing £25,000 if you can get SEIS qualification. Okay. Massive advantage if you're talking to an investor about that.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. Good to know. And to give these new entrepreneurs like the best chance for a successful investment, what kind of things do you think they should have prepped in the earliest stages alongside their business plan?
Well, I would say do some internal examination of your motivations and focus, because quite often what I've found is sometimes people just rely on a slide deck, and they think that's everything. But actually, it's the person is very important. So make sure you understand your motivations, your focus, that you've got clarity on your product. So, or idea, whatever the idea is. And it needs to be something you can explain easily. If it's too complicated to explain, it's probably not the right idea. You've got to be able to say it simply, and it's got to be something that either solves a problem, if you like, very broadly, or is very enjoyable. Very broadly. And really, you've got to understand with absolute clarity what your idea is. And if you can't explain it to your mum or your 12-year-old brother or sister, then really you need to think about what you're doing. And is it exactly right? So I would say, do think about it. Don't just assume because you've done some research on some competitors in the same space and you've put a forecast together. And by the way, putting a forecast together, anyone can do that. That is literally a spreadsheet exercise. So those things are elements that you need, but it's not something the investor is going to hang their hat on completely.
Okay.
They need to understand that you have complete clarity, that you understand the consumer value proposition, or if it's a B2B, the business value proposition very clearly with absolute clarity. I would say that personally, I think that's important. And speaking as someone who's sort of often in the past tried to overcomplicate things, I have to pull myself back from that and say, what exactly do I mean here? There's nothing wrong with being simple. People think that they have to put loads of fancy words or fancy concepts around it, but you don't really. You need to be able to explain it very simply. So a bit of internal examination is what I would say outside of your business plan. But your business plan does have to be good and well prepared, well structured, well researched.